Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchill here. Welcome to my channel. Today an art journal tutorial, and this one I've put in a lot of different tips and tricks, things to help you out in your art journaling journey. So I'm going to be using this family napkin from NinnysNapkins. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm opening it up. I'm using a piece of tape in the corner to remove first one, then the second excess layer of white napkin. Now save this. You can use these in your art in other ways. So what I want to do, while I love this napkin and the bright colors, I want the main focal image only. So I'm going to water cut it out. Now you can use scissors to do this. I put a little bit of water on a liner brush and I go around the image and just short little areas, and I pull it apart. This gives kind of a frayed edge, which I prefer to a straight cut edge. Now, all that other part of the napkin, don't worry, I'm going to use that for some other project. So it's just going back into my stash to be used because those colors, they are so incredibly vibrant. Now, a lot of what I do in this art journal page is dictated by this focal image. And this is where I started. But now, how do you select a background color? So here's my cheater way of doing it. I pull out the gel prints, collage papers, things I have in my stash, and I place the focal image on it and quickly decide, yes, that's a maybe, no, it's not. Don't take a lot of time, follow your instincts. It's a nay, and then I put all the yeses on. Here, I love the color combination, so the orange yellow might work. Don't worry if it's not big enough for your background because you're just testing out the color schemes and maybe some of the patterning in there to give you ideas of how you can use or develop your background. I love this one. It has a lot of the same colors in it. It's got some pattern in it. It's got the white, the contrast. That would be work. And I could use that as an Insta background if I want to. So I'm just pulling out all the stash builders. Now I pulled out this purple napkin and I like the circle shape because we have that circle shape on the focal image as well as there are dots on that focal image. I like the look of the patterning in this background. It mirrors the patterning of the feathers on the focal image. So this is giving me ideas for possible stencils, possible patterns, possible colors that I will then take and develop on a background. Now I like the purple here behind that, but that doesn't go with that color background so much. I like the swirl behind this. This would work. All the same colors are represented in this color. So on the left-hand side there, I'm reaching into my bin and my file folders. Now, the color here matches the one child, and I like the swirl. So I'm thinking, maybe I can put some swirls into my background to represent wind and the elements around this family. Now I pull out this, and I'm liking the color there. We've got that blue that is a complementary color to a lot of the oranges that are in there, and that's why it's popping. So that's giving me an idea. So every single one that I pull is giving me ideas. Now I like the swirl background of this gel print, but the color isn't quite right. Here I'm thinking, oh, it's the perfect color. And if I put this behind Ooh, I'm really liking that blue. It's a light blue permanent with a little bit of teal with that purple circle. So now I have enough ideas. So now I'm going to create my background. None of those backgrounds were perfect in of themselves. So what I've done here is I have light blue permanent, some teal cobalt, and my white gesso, and I'm going to put a base layer of paint on here. I don't want this flat, which is why I'm using a makeup sponge. This is on mixed media paper. This is my Canson mixed media journal. I've taken it off the coils, and I like the imperfection that I'm putting in the background because I don't want this to look flat. I want lots of interest in there. So I'm adding, you want some lights and darks, some different tones. So one of the things when you get different colors from different companies, they each are slightly different shades, and you can use that to your benefit. Here I'm adding a little bit of Prussian blue just to add some variation, some darkness to the background. And I'm testing off my focal image against the background to see if I'm getting it right. Now I want to add more interest to the background. So I grabbed this Fancy Feathers stencil, and I'm just using this one little part of the feather. Now this mirrors the feathers that are on the focal image. Remember I said how I'm using that focal image, that napkin art, as inspiration for all the elements that I'm going to add, the colors, the patterns, everything. Because you want the page to work together. You want it to be cohesive. So I'm liking that. Adding that dark really works well. Now this stencil is a Zinnia stencil. Now again, I'm using white gesso through the stencil, but only that center part. And again, it has those dots that were on the focal image, and it has the shape of kind of the feathers in there. So I'm not just layering random stencils. There is some thought behind the selection of it. In that things are working together. Now, if I wanted this white to be more brighter or more opaque, I would have used white acrylic paint instead of the gesso. It's a little bit more subtle, and I deliberately chose that to be subtle. Now, on this coffee filter that has the purple, there's the Gentle Leaves stencil with white. And I like how that looks. And again, the leaves of that stencil match the feathers. Everything's working together. Now I'm adding some yellow oxide, I believe, through this tiny dot stencil because there's that yellow on the focal image as well as the dots. So again, everything's working together. The decisions aren't just random. In this case, sometimes if I've just created a background, I don't know what focal image I'm using, but this is when you're starting with a focal image. Now, because I kept testing that image on the background, I got paint on it, so I did cut out another one. And because my background is blue and I want to keep my colors bright, I'm gluing it down onto just plain copy paper with my fluid matte medium from Liquitex. And once it's dry, I'm just cutting it out. This gives some stability to the napkin as well as preserves those bright colors. And you can see how this is popping. Now, many of these stencils, as well as this napkin, can be purchased at NinnysNapkins.com. There is a link in the description box, as well as a coupon code. Go and check it out. If she doesn't have what you want, she will bring it in. most likely, if she can get it. Now I'm using, again, the center part of the Zinnia Stencil, and I'm taking the purple from that circle part that I'm going to collage in and putting it into the background. Again, we want everything to have a reason and a connection to other elements on it. So here we're using a lot of our stencils, but just a little part. Now that circle, that coffee filter was just a little too big, wrong scale. So I found a tracer, an old lid. I saved my lids from things to use as tracers, and I just cut it down to size. And this scale works much better. I brainstormed, looked for some sentiments on Pinterest, and played with some fonts. And now I'm just cutting them out, and I'm going to addition these as well. I've got a couple different sizes. That's too small, that's too big. And I'm just playing with where I want everything to go. Final composition. Putting it on the right-hand side there just isn't working for me. It just looks too out of place. So when I put it on top of the purple napkin, it just seemed to come together. So now I'm playing with that idea. You want the scale to work, you want the number of letters to work. So I audition. I try one way, I try another sentiment. And sometimes what fits better is how I choose it. And I'm liking this one. It seems to help your eye flow. It has more words. I bubble cut the word everything out, which is what I often do with script sentiments. Now, while this particular sentiment isn't available, I do have many sentiment packs. They are also available at NinnysNapkins.com, and that link is in the description box as well. So you can go and check out my digital sentiment packs, which you can resize and use however you wish. I'm gluing that down with gel medium, and now that I've got the focal image down, I'm putting the sentiment in. And of course, I changed the final composition or arrangement of those words as well. Just a word about the sentiment packs. I do have some videos that I show you how you can resize the sentiments to fit your composition, no matter what size you're working on. You can shrink them down or blow them up. Now something seemed to be missing here and I wasn't sure what, so I decided I'm going to edge the page. I've got a little bit of black in the focal image. Now there's black in the letters, so I'm shading using the floating acrylic technique of shading. And I'm edging the page here. And instantly that frames the page and points me in direction. Then I want to shade the focal image. I want it to stand out from that very busy background. There's a lot of pattern in that background. It all makes sense, but I do want my focal image to be forefront. And you can see the difference that this shading with the black makes. Now, when you're putting down napkin or coffee filter collage items, you want to make sure you have a good coat of gel medium on top so that it doesn't bleed and soak into the paper. You really want to seal that paper first. And here I'm going over it a couple times just to build up the shading around it, and it really, really made this focal image stand out. Now I needed to add more contrast, so I grabbed this dotted rings stencil from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm adding it. Now it has the dots, it has the shape of the feathers and the shape of the gentle leaf stencil and the shape of the zinnia stencil in it. So everything again works together. And it was at this point, it was like, yes, this background works. Sometimes you don't know what's missing until you get to that. And you address that in the finishing stages. This stencil is a definite keeper. I've used this so much and it's often just the right thing because it's small scale. Now I've used my Posca pen here and I'm outlining the sentiment in black just to make it stand out. I didn't splatter with gold, but that would look lovely with these bright colors. Now I grab my white Posca pen and I'm dotting. Now the reason I'm dotting is I have dots in the background. There's dots on that focal image. If you look really close, the artist has put the dots on there. So I'm working with what she or he has given me. And these dots really, really make this all work together. The Posca pen, while if it's wet or just put down, you can remove it. It is permanent when it's dry. And I believe these are also available at NinnysNapkins. I've just further made the focal image pop, and then I decide I'm going to add dots around the outside edge. Being careful not to put my finger or my back of my hand into the wet paint. I need to remove the tape, so I'm using my heat tool to heat it up. That just makes it easier to remove so you don't pull off any of the paper. So if you're having trouble with that, give that a try. Close-ups of the finished project and all that wonderful detail are as followed. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment, ask me a question, recommend my channel to your creative friends. Until next time, go get creative.